All right, so when I said in that last video was that I was going to pause it and write down what I just said. So down here it says when the constant term C is positive, it goes over here. The constant term is just the last number. That means your last number. So when the last number in my equation, in this instance, my positive 15, when the last number is positive, the factors have the same operation. So you'll have something that looks like this, x plus a number and x plus a number, or they'll both be subtraction, x minus a number and x minus a number. Now over here, right here, when you have your last number that is negative, so say you have your last number and it's negative, then your two factors will have different operations. One of them will be negative and one of them will be positive. And same over here, one of them will be positive and the other one will be negative. And this should be a parenthesis, not a zero. So, and you're like, Ms. Bishop, well, how do I know which number is negative and which number is positive? You do know that you're going to want to use 3 and 5 because you want to make 2. You're like, Ms. Bishop, I'm not sure. I know that the last number is negative, so they're going to have different operations, but how do I know which one's negative and which one's positive? Well, you need to see what will give you positive 2, your middle number. Well, negative 3 plus 5 does give you positive 2. All right, so you're going to want to pause the video and write down what I just said about that. If your last term is negative right here, that's where I'm at, the factors have different operations. X plus a number and x minus a number. One's positive and one's negative. So this should save you time. It'll take you a little bit to refer back to, but it'll save you a little bit of time so that you don't need to come up here and write out all the options like we did over there. Okay? Alrighty, so pause that video, make sure you get all of that written down, and then we are going to talk one more thing about the greatest common factor. And I already went ahead and wrote down what the greatest common factor is, so you may want to pause it and write it because I'm going to keep talking. But after you pause and write the definition, let me explain it. The greatest common factor is the largest number or expression. This says or, sorry, I wrote it in a hurry. The largest number or expression that is a factor of all terms. So sorry that my handwriting is so sloppy right here. The largest number or expression that is a factor of all terms. We'll do 2 examples. Mind you, though, write yourself a note. If the first term is negative, you need to factor out a negative. All right, so what does that all mean? After you have written it, now you make sure you have this written. What does that all mean? We've got this example. This says for each expression, factor out the greatest common factor, commonly known as the GCF. So over here, I have negative 3x squared plus 12x. I need to ask myself a couple different things. First, I want to know, is my leading term, my first term, is it negative? And yes, my first term, my negative 3x squared, is negative. My first thing here is a negative number. I need to keep that in mind that I need to factor out a negative. I'll show you how to do that in 1 second, but let's keep that on our list of things to do. It is negative. Then I need to ask myself another question. Does each item in this equation have an x to give? Well, yes, this is 3x squared. X squared is still an x to give, and this is 12x. So both of my terms here both have something to do with x. So I need to think about that in a second. All righty. And one last thing I need to ask myself is there a number I can divide both terms by and get a nice number back? I want to make this as small as possible. Okay, so I have simplifying to do. So I want to see if I can find a greatest common factor. I want to see if I can divide both of these numbers by the same number to make them smaller. Well, I know that, so for instance, I can't divide negative 3 and divide it by 4 and get a nice number. Negative 3 divided by 4 is not a nice number. Although I can take 12 and divide it by 4 and get a nice number, it needs to be the same. So what happens? Ooh, I'm almost out of time. I got one last video for you. Watch one last video. Thanks.